Welcome back to the Horror Academic. Last month, we talked about one of my favorite Wes Craven films, the 1996 Scream, modern classic that it is. And so this month, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about all the other Screams that exist so far. And we're still talking about this wonderful Scream box set that I picked up from Alliance Media. And I have a guest today because I gotta admit, I am not totally 100% knowledgeable on the sequels. I love the first one to death, but the sequels, I don't know as much, so I had to call in and reserve. And I had to tag Danielle in. Danielle Million,
Hello.
welcome to the show.
Tag teamed me into the ring of Scream.
Bam, you're in.
Yes.
uh, she's coming to us from the interwebs far, far away, audio only today. So you will see various photos pop up over here.
Yes. Over here
So
and
you
over
know,
here and over
Danielle.
here.
Yes, she's here. She's here. I swear.
She's everywhere.
So I want to know first off, like, why when I was like, I want to do a show with you. What are we gonna do? And Scream. I just knew you were a Scream fanatic. So what is it about Scream that you love?
So Scream was definitely my favorite slasher immediately. I think it was because of the silly nature of the killers, of Billy and Stu, and like the high school like fun teen. Even though I saw that movie when I was like 7, way too young to
Oh,
see it, but it was like one of my first scary movies that I saw with my mom because she's also a huge horror fan. But I remember seeing it and I'm like, wow, this is like a fun movie. Everyone's having fun, but also I'm scared of this ghost face and like what is this weird scared feeling I feel? Like, I hadn't ever been scared of a movie before. And so Scream was the first introduction into the scary world of horror movies, and I personally just think that they can do no wrong in these movies. I think every movie's perfect. Obviously, it has some flaws. We'll get into those. But I think as a franchise, it's just one of the funnest. You can just put these on and watch them start like 1 to 4 and just have fun. I don't know. I think it's just a fun little series.
you do your own stab marathon at home.
Yes, exactly.
That's I love that that's your introduction because it is everything about horror is wrapped up in Scream somehow. So it's
Yeah.
like the great crash course in all horror that there is. But
Yes.
a little frightened that you I saw it when I was in college.
Yeah, when Scream came out, I was 7 years old, I think. In
Yeah.
96. Yeah, I was born in 89, so I was a babe.
I
But
think I was 19.
oh,
Yeah.
you
Wow.
don't look that much older than me. You look
Thank
like a
you.
little babe.
I'm totally fine with platitudes. That's totally cool. um and so did you see all of them in the theater or just the first one? Or
I
yeah,
I saw. I did not see the first one in theater. I
three, four.
saw 3 and 4. I didn't see the first two. I don't. I think I just saw those at home. I'm pretty sure. But I specifically remember my mom pulled me and my best friend out of school to see the fourth one because she was like, "We have to. It's just a tradition." And
Great.
so, also my ferrets are making an appearance, as you can hear.
Oh yes. Also out in the ether that we cannot see is her ferrets, but that's cool.
Yes.
They're very cute. Look on her Twitter, you will see tons of pictures of the
Yeah,
cute
I'm
ferret. I don't
obsessed.
even like ferrets and they're cute ferrets.
Yeah, my husband he fought me on this, and then once I got him, he was like, "Okay, they're really cute." I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. I had to do that with a cat with my husband because he was like, I don't know, I'm allergic to everything. Okay, fine, we'll get a cat. I'll take
Okay,
allergy pills.
let's try it out.
Yeah, it's all right. But I saw the first three in the theater.
Oh, how
Uh,
lucky.
but like four completely skipped me by, and I will tell you how long ago four came out. I think it was the last thing I got from Blockbuster when they were
Oh,
doing like Blockbuster by mail, you know, like for that minute where they tried to be Netflix.
yeah, they're like,
Um,
please, I want to stay relevant.
yeah, it was we're closing the store, but here you get free. You can try this for free. And I think Scream 4 might have been the last movie I got that way. So that's how long ago
So
that came out.
cool.
Yeah.
Also, I take it back. I think it was not last year, but the year before. I went and saw Scream in theater because they had like a
Oh,
Alamo movie
that's
night.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
It was like a, what do they call those? Like movie parties? Yeah, and they give you the props and stuff. So
Oh, fun.
we got like a knife and like Gail Weathers like microphone and like it was silly. We had a badge for Dewey, but
Nice.
it was fun to go do that with my mom since I was too young to do it the first time. So
Very cool.
so technically I've seen 1, 3, and 4.
Okay. See, the funny thing for me when I was watching them for this, when I was doing the rewatch, okay, so I know I got like the first one in every format when it came out. Like literally, I showed on last episode my Laserdisc. That's how every format about the first one.
Badass.
And then like two, I totally remember seeing it in the theater and then buying, I guess maybe I don't know if tape even was a thing anymore. So maybe just buy the DVD. And the
Hmm.
same thing with three. So I know I saw two and three each at least twice in the theater and then when I bought the disc. Four, like I said, I rented it, but I never owned that one. So this was I really didn't remember anything about four, but I had it somehow in my head confused two and three somehow, which makes no sense in the timeline of things.
Yeah.
So I was equally surprised with both movies. Like, oh, that's this one, like.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
That's always
it's
fun to
cool.
revisit and be like, oh yeah, that's this movie. Okay.
When it's been like a good 10 years since you've seen something, and it's like, wow, I forgot 80% of this movie. That's kind of cool now because now I can kind of see it all over again. So that's, I don't mind stuff like that. It's fun, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
But so we should jump in because we got three movies to talk about. So
Oh
it's gonna
yeah.
take a
Oh yeah.
minute. Yeah, yeah. So Scream 2. We were saying how we have to kind of like sum up quick because three movies.
Right.
Um, Scream 2, that's the college one. Just know the first one was high school. Now the survivors of Scream 1 are in college.
It's like
Bam.
Scream 1 College Edition.
Right. It's it's
Exactly.
it's just like Saved by the Bell. But
Yes. Yes.
um things about this film that I find interesting are, well, what's awesome about it is that we were able to retain the core cast, right? So
Yes.
not only do we have the characters of like Sydney and Randy coming back and Dewey and Gail, but it's the same actors. That's what's amazing. That's one of the things that's amazing about this is that they all stuck with it, you know?
Yeah, they all stayed for all four, and
Yeah.
now, I mean,
The
I
five,
see,
yeah.
yeah, the cast for five, so
Well, well,
um,
we'll
it's
have to think
cool.
about five. I have questions, but I don't know.
Yeah, I have so many theories in my head, and I'm mad about some, and I'm happy about some. I don't know.
Yeah, and then maybe this is more of a, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but one of the things that I love also about all four is that Wes Craven directed all four, and
Yeah,
that kind of through line is not just Sidney Prescott, but it's also Wes Craven and his
yeah.
creative mind, and I don't know what five is going to feel like without him. So that's
No,
my
I'm
biggest worry.
worried. I
Yeah,
did really like the show, though, the
I
Scream
haven't
TV
watched the show.
series. It did a really good job of like paying homage to Scream, but being its own little thing. But it was really fun. I liked it.
I'll check that out. Yep,
Yeah, it's really good.
cool. So since we talked in the last episode, since I did go through all the cast and crew, we're just going to say key right here. We do have, like we said, Nev Campbell's back, Courtney Cox is back, David Arquette is back, Jamie Kennedy's back. So that's that. We
Yep.
have a million other people, though.
Oh, yes. So
It's a
many
whole new
people.
cast on top of that. Um, in the beginning, so it's again, we have these kind of vignette moments, just like in the first one. So we start off with Jada Pickett and Omar Epps,
Yes.
in that
Which is one of
awesome.
the best intros in of any movie ever because sorry, I'm just got really excited.
No, 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 go for it.
But
Cool.
I just that is such a terrible like fear of being killed, and she thinks that it's her boyfriend who's killing her, and they're at this stab movie, so everyone's dressed up, so they're like cheering it on. Like, what a terrible, terrible way to die.
It's like being stuck in the movie without actually being in the movie. It's just people just assume you're part of the show, right? That's crazy.
Yeah,
But
and she has no idea it's not Omar Epps too. So,
right,
oh
and plus, like he feel bad for him because it was his idea to come to this. She obviously had no interest. I love her whole diatribe, kind of going through all the tropes of, oh, why do we want to watch this movie? It's going to be the same as every other, which is kind of like
Yeah.
the quick sum up of everything in the first Scream, which is, I kind of love that about it.
Yeah, exactly. And Sydney does that in the first film too, where she's like, "Why would I watch, a big-breasted girl running up the stairs when she should be running out the
Another door.
yeah." And she does the same exact thing she says, and then they
Yep.
do it again with this one. She says it, and
Oh,
she's
And
pissed.
and then on top of it, she's so the vignette of the opening of the first movie with Drew Barrymore, which is the best opening ever
Oh,
to a movie,
ever.
period,
Mm-hmm.
is being played out in Stab, which is the movie about everything that happened in the first movie in the world of this movie. So
Yeah.
she's experienced, Jade Pinkett's character's experiencing the same moment while she's watching someone have that moment on the screen. So,
Yeah.
and she's the cameo of this film, so she's still the Drew Barrymore character in that way too. So she has a little bit. You're not sure what's going to happen. Is she going to be the new Sydney? Like, are we not following Sydney's story in this one because it's the opening minutes? We don't
Right.
know.
Right.
Or is it going to be about her and her boyfriend and their friends? Or no? Or is
Exactly.
she the Drew? And this is just going to be a moment to start us off. And so I love how it plays with all of those dynamics. And it's that, just like in the first film, that scene is like its own movie into itself, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
amazing open.
The whole introduction of Stab in Scream 2 is such a good what is that movie with Inception? It's such a good Scream Inception because they're making fun of the story of Scream through Stab, but it's what's happening, and they make little like remarks on who's going to play who in the movies, and it's just such a brilliant fun little thing.
And I love how all of those they make them happen. Like all of the things that you think are just thrown in passing in the first film. Like, oh my God, Tori Spelling will probably end up playing me in the movie
Yeah.
version. And there's Tori Spelling, and it's just
Yeah.
that just you can't not laugh. It's so smart to make it all tie together still, and even introducing the idea of Stab makes so much more. Well, obviously, part three would have to be a totally different story if there weren't Stab movies in this world. But it just sets up, you know, more of a a richer kind of environment inside the world of the film, and it's so smart.
Yes, it's brilliant. I love
But
it.
that's Kevin Williamson's writing. He knows the genre so well that he knows our expectations and how to mess with them. And of course, you would make a movie about what you saw in the other movie. So
Yeah.
brilliant.
Brilliant.
So, who are our main cast once we get to the actual film after we lose Jada Pinkett? So, Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps, I guess I should say really quickly as far as horror. Omar Epps, obviously, he was in Dracula 2000. Jada Pinkett before she's Jada Pinkett Smith in Demon Knight and the Matrix sequels. So,
So
some pretty
cool.
high hitters in the very openings of the film. But we have a whole new cast that comes in after this.
Yeah.
Um,
A whole new, or a whole like five, six, seven, eight people that are already famous. It's crazy.
that's the other thing about the casting in these films is everybody that's in it is like, when, oh my God, I forgot you're in this. Oh my God, I forgot that person's in it. Like they,
Yeah.
they all either were in the middle of huge careers that were blossoming, or this catapults them into a whole new career. Like, and what
Yeah.
much like Scream did. That was really the start off point for so many of them. So
And one of my favorite things about Wes Craven is he'll take these huge actors and actresses and get them to say yes, for one, and then kill them off.
yeah,
Like Drew Barrymore and Jada and Omar Epps just dead in the first 10 minutes. It's like, that's crazy.
yep. It's so. I mean, like I say, we're playing with everybody's expectations. I mean, even to think that of the kind of like the secondary cast, so like we have our returning cast, but then like these new group of friends that they have, Sarah Michelle Gellar. This was right
Yeah.
when Buffy was huge, right? Like this is like season 2 or 3 of Buffy, I think, at the same time.
Yeah. And she was also doing I Know What You Did Last Summer at the same exact time as this
Oh
movie.
my God, yeah. So
So
huge
she was
hits.
just all over horror scene.
Yep. And then Cruel Intentions, and so
Oh, I love that movie.
she's she's like literally the hot star
Yeah.
in Hollywood, and she's you assume when you see her she's going to be a bigger character than she ends up being because of that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, she's just one of the girls in the sorority, and she's
She's
gonna
just,
die, you know.
yep, she's just here to get
Spoiler.
thrown off a balcony.
Yep, she'll have a big death, so that'll be worth it. But
Oh, that's one of my favorite. Like, Wes Craven and Scream do such a good job of the death scene and then a cool like 90s song after. Like, I don't know, it's like this like reoccurring thing, but after she gets thrown off of that thing, it goes into a song that's like so pop, like party song, and you're like, oh, we're having a good time now. Okay, she's
yeah,
dead.
she's dead, but everybody else is still okay, right?
Yeah,
Still have that party that she's at or she's not
exactly.
at. But
Yeah, whoops.
yeah, the I guess in a way, and maybe because of the time period, and it's strange in a way to see Wes Craven adapt so well to the style of the 90s. And I mean, I know that that's a good deal of that is the editor, kind of with the pacing, but
Hmm.
it feels in a lot of ways like the way The Craft does, because I mean that's kind of like 90s
Oh
cinema to me
yeah,
right
for
there.
sure.
I love the use of music in that movie,
Oh, it's so good.
like The Craft and The Crow. Those are two movies that like use their soundtrack of like pop songs, really. I mean, like songs as opposed to score music so
Yeah,
well, and they set the stage for how to edit a horror movie for me in the 90s, and I love how Scream just kind of like follows that path, you know.
yeah, yeah. There's one, the Red Right Hand song that they always use in the Scream series. I love that song and I have it on all my horror playlists. But I look it up and it says that it's like a soundtrack of Peaky Blinders, and I'm like, listen, Scream was first. This song came from Scream, but
and it
I
gets
just
like
love their use of those popular songs.
and it gets refashioned in each one too in a different way, and it
Yeah.
kind of and it's always I love how you like when you get to that kind of courtyard scene, like the middle of town or whatever,
Hmm.
it pops up in some new way, and it's so smart. So it's so
Yes.
much this movie smart. Um,
No, it's
okay,
brilliant.
so wait, so we always said with Sarah Michelle Gellar. Jerry O'Connell. Jerry O'Connell. So I, I'm a big sci-fi nut too, and he was
Hmm.
like Sliders was huge when I was a kid.
Oh
I was totally
yeah.
like the market for that one. Um, but when he was young, that's Jerry O'Connell from Stand By Me. So I mean,
Hmm.
he's already got some horror cred going there. And then of course, I mean, lately, Satanic Panic, he was great in that. I love that. I know he's in Scream Queens, which I haven't seen. Have you watched Scream Queens?
Yes, I watched the first season of Scream Queens. It's very good. I
Yeah,
couldn't get into the second one.
okay. I got it. That's another one I gotta check off my list that I gotta watch. I'm bad with TV shows, but the but yeah. So Jerry O'Connell, here he is, the new boyfriend to
Yes,
Sydney.
the new frat boyfriend who's sweet and just normal.
The opposite of Billy, right?
Yes, exactly. Very opposite. But of course,
Khakis. No.
since, yeah, exactly, and the button ups. But of course, since she's had a boyfriend who tried to kill her, she's immediately like, "Are you the one killing all my friends?" Or like, "Where have you, like, where were you during this time?" And he's like, "I'm just trying to be good to you, you know?"
Yeah, guy can't get a
I,
break.
yeah,
But we went through the whole first movie hearing, Skeet Ulrich saying the same thing too.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you still think it's me? Well, because she had a good reason. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And
we
in the
understand her
second
being
one, it's
cautious.
kind of, you go through the whole movie and you're like, okay, so Scream 1 changed the whole perspective of killer to killers,
Hmm.
and now it was the boyfriend. So is it the boyfriend again? Would they do that again, or is that redundant? And
Right.
it's like, it's a sequel, so anything can happen. We didn't know that 3 and 4 and 5 were coming, so
Right.
it's like whenever Randy and Dewey are talking about who could be the killer, they're like, well, is it Gail? And he's like, it's not Gail. And he's like, well, is it you? And so you're like, well, is it the main cast? Like, it could be because it was Billy and Stu. So
Right.
yeah,
And
I love it.
could just surviving the incident drive them? I mean, like, I think it had been at some point they even questioned, well, could it be Sydney? Like, is
Yeah.
she? Like, did push her over the edge going through all this? Who knows? Like, anybody's a suspect, which is always good.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
who else we have? Okay, so the best friend character to Jerry O'Connell is oh man, I'm gonna say this guy's name wrong, and I'm gonna apologize now. Timothy Oliphant.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. Because I didn't know. Uh, so
I've heard it Oliphant and Oliphant, so I
yeah,
think
and I'm like, it's not elephant, so I'm not thinking that's right.
I love him. I love him so much. He is so handsome. And he's so good in this movie throughout the entire movie as the college boy, the funny, like the quirky guy that's like says the little one-liners. Um, I love him in The Crazies. I love him.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to think.
Santa Clarita Diet.
Yes.
I
Oh,
still need to
that's it.
finish the last season of that, but I that he is awesome in that show. I love that show.
Yeah, he is wonderful. But
He's
he
a little
just
little unhinged in this, but it
yeah, that's
works.
true. Yeah.
Like even as the friend character, you're like, you're a little off, dude. But
Yeah,
it's
you're weird.
okay. Yeah.
Oh, he's fun. And when they have that whole sequence that's like which sequels are good in the film class, and
Mhm.
it's totally just mocking its own self as a movie.
Yes.
But the way he talks in that is just so funny to me. Like he just is the perfect like I don't know, film like arrogant guy.
Yes. Well, and he's a great kind of foil for kind of Jamie Kennedy in this one because
Yeah.
Randy was the geek boy supreme in the first one,
Yeah.
and nobody kind of like aside from getting some references and they couldn't compete, and
Mhm.
now he's in total film geek world because they're like in film class,
Yeah.
so he's got this is a rival, this is somebody who can go head to head with him, and you wonder how much he's like, yeah, you know too much,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you know movies too well. Maybe that's not a good thing,
Yeah.
Let's see who else we have in this cast though. We have
Elise Neal, I
yes,
don't know
Elise Neal.
from anything else, I don't think.
So I saw that she was in Logan, the Marvel
Oh,
movie, and
right.
I totally forgot that until I looked it up. I was like, oh wow, yeah. But that's a huge gap in time from Scream 2
Yeah.
to Logan, so that's probably why I didn't associate. Um, so she did have some genre stuff in there too. She had something more recent called Tragedy Girls, but I have not seen it, so I cannot say anything about it. But it's good to see that she's still doing some genre stuff.
Yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
fine.
She was really good in this movie. Oh man. Her like spoiler alert, but her death scene is just
Mm. That whole car
nerve
scene. Oh my
wracking.
god.
I'm just like, get out. Also, like, there's so many chances in the second one for them to pull the mask off and look at him, which obviously you're not going to do that
Right.
because we can't know. But the whole time I'm just like, take his mask off. Like, I just want her to do it so bad.
And
Ugh.
there's that great scene where they're both trapped in the car with Ghostface, and it's like they have to kind of he's knocked out,
Oh,
and they got
yep. Ugh.
that whole scene is like excruciatingly long feeling because you're like, any minute he could wake up, and then
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best moment of them almost taking the mask off because Sydney does go back, and you
Yeah.
think
She's
she's
like,
gonna be
I
able to do it.
have to know. And I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
And
you
then
went through all that, go for it.
yeah, and that poor girl's like, I'm not climbing over him. Like,
Yeah,
and then she does it, and then Sydney goes back and she's like, he's gone. And the girl's like, what? And then she just dies. And I'm like, damn it, dude. She didn't want to even do
yeah, I
that.
know that's so not her fault. That's the problem of being the best friend character. Like
Yes,
you get
exactly.
stuck in whatever trap the protagonist wants you to get, go
Yeah,
along with.
exactly.
But she's 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 a great kind of balancer too
Mm-hmm.
for every time, even early on, whenever Sid starts to worry, oh my god, it's going to happen again, oh my god, it's going to happen again, she's kind of like, maybe, but you're not there, like
Uh-huh.
she's trying to rope her in and be like, it's okay, just
Cool.
be you at school, it's all right. So
She's very
important.
good at being the sequel best friend
Yep.
to Tatum.
Yes.
Because Tatum in the first one where when she punches Gail, she's like, "Bam, bitch went
Just went
down."
down.
Yeah, and in the second one, she slaps Gail again, and she's like, "Did you get that on film?" And I'm just like, dude, I love like the hype man, best friend girls that these two play,
Yes.
and it's just so crucial to the film.
And Sid needs that too. She needs somebody to be her cheerleader because she's like living this bizarre world.
This
So
nightmare.
yeah, so it's awesome in that respect that she's got somebody who's kind of always there, got her back kind of thing.
Hmm.
There was a great thing in one of the little extras that I saw where she's the actress talks about how that was an improv line that she threw in there. Like, did you get that on film? And
Oh.
she was surprised they kept it, but I can't remember his name right now. The guy who played the cameraman mocks
Oh.
her right after.
Yeah. Did you get? He's like, guess I got that on film.
Yeah, yes, he does it like right back, and she got mad at him for stepping on her line. Like, dude, I just came up
uh,
with that. Now you're gonna jump on it? No, that's not cool. And
that's
it was
really
because
funny.
of it. They kept all of it together because of the way they played. They picked it up so quick. It just felt natural. So that's awesome too. That it's an environment in the film that things like that could happen. You don't really think of Wes Craven being an improviser, but
Yeah.
he lets those moments happen, and he's very willing to kind of like hash stuff out with actors beforehand and like, well, what do you think, or how do you feel about this? And if they come to him with questions, but I don't really hear too many stories of him being cool with improv live when it's happening as
Yeah.
much. So I think that's also him getting a lot of great energy from this cast and rolling with it. So
Yeah, and allowing that to make the film better.
yeah, you have to just kind of, that's part of what makes these movies kind of fresh and like in the moment when they happen, which is important because this is another thing that comes up about some of the kind of things I've read about Scream, where it's like, I think Kevin Williamson had said it, that it was horror was always about trying to be timeless.
Yeah.
And he was all about, no, make it for the kids that are happening right now. Like, this is important. This is a moment. And we want the audience to be in on that moment. And
Right.
if you're only going to ever make timeless movies, well, what's cool for what's right now? So let's be cool. It's okay. So that
That's like,
energy totally just kind of follows through with this whole series.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get more into that when we talk about 3 and 4
Yeah.
because you can definitely see it happening in the now.
Hmm. And that's an
But
important place to be.
yeah.
I will say it's the one big difference that I feel where Scream 1, the banter and the way he wrote, it was all very genre specific.
Yeah.
Everybody was in on it, and it was that kind of mentality of, well, these are just the horror movies kids would know. So it's okay if all of them know what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is, because they all would know. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't they? In this film, it's kind of reshaping a little bit, and now it's just like I felt like everybody was a bit more media savvy in general,
Yeah.
and not necessarily like genre savvy. Like it was all about like that great scene where they're talking about sequels. Um, they're very movie hip, and they're talking about like the Godfather movies and what like Jaws 2 or whatever. Like
Yeah.
they go through kind of the litany of all the sequels. Like Empire was the only one better than like, and
Yeah.
it's like they're having these kind of geeky kind of explorations, but it's not in the same vibe. It's a different vibe, but it's just kind of this more inclusive, like we're all media savvy because it's the 90s and isn't everybody, like,
Yeah.
which I think works because I don't know how far you could continue to push everybody knowing horror films, right?
Right, cuz like who who in this immediate cast would be super into horror films after their like 2 or 3 or 4 movies of their friends getting killed? It's like
Yeah.
we're not going to keep watching horror movies at this point because that's going to be triggering, you know?
Yeah. And
So,
even like the film geek kids, I mean, you're going to assume that you're in a class full of kids who all want to be like writers and directors, and they're going
yeah.
to want to expand outside of just the genre. They're going to want to know film, you know?
Right.
And
Exactly.
and plus we're stuck in this kind of existence of kind of like in the first film where something bad happens, the media shows up.
Oh,
Um,
yep.
Now they're stuck because not only the media shows up when something bad happens, but it didn't even happen at the campus, right?
Yeah.
And they show up because they know that's where Sydney is.
Yeah, exactly.
So you still have this kind of like media,
Mhm.
bam, we're here in your face. So it's this kind of world of course they would know about all these crappy, like I don't know, like Entertainment Tonight, or like all those types
Yeah,
of things on top of like the Inside Editions, and like the like super cheesy Geraldo type craziness that was on TV back then,
because
and
that's all you had, really.
yeah, and I
Just
love how that's another flow through too. Like it follows them; they become more savvy, and we become more savvy about their world in that way too.
yeah, it's very adaptive.
Yeah, and it feels realistic in that. As goofy at times as the films can be, in kind of poking fun and like
Hmm.
obviously like poking fun, they're also really smart in that way of feeling more real and rounded because of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Did we catch everybody in the? I mean, only the person I think we didn't really mention that's a major player is Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah, she's a major, major player.
Yeah,
And it's crazy when they introduce her, she's just like, "Hello." Like, I'm just here to do like the news with you. Like, I'm a fellow reporter in the midst of this giant crowd. And you're like, "Holy shit, that's the girl from Roseanne."
right.
Like,
It's Roseanne's sister.
yeah, it's
Like come
like,
on.
"What?" Like, she's huge. And then you don't see her again. And I'm like, "Okay." Like, you don't see her obviously until the end, but
Well, you feel like it's a cameo. Like it's
yeah,
just gonna be
exactly. Like, it's like, "Whoa, they just put her in here like they
like
do
Linda
with."
Blair in the first one, right?
Yeah. Ugh, when I found out that was Linda Blair, I exploded. Like, I didn't find out
So
for a really long time. And then when I started really getting into horror, like behind the scenes or like facts about horror, I don't like this was probably like, oh God, a long time ago. But I had been watching this movie obviously since I was 7. So not finding that out for like, I don't know, 20, 15, 20 years, I'm like, what?
yeah, I'm thinking you didn't hit The Exorcist right away. You know,
No,
that
no.
might have been not been movie two.
Yeah,
You know,
Exorcist was a little bit later in the game
yeah.
for me.
Well, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck, it was traumatizing for me at like 16. I can't even imagine before that. So, yeah.
Yeah. My mom
But
saw that one in theaters.
my mom did too.
She said it was traumatizing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly.
But they do such a good job in this movie of making you forget her because she's just like,
Mhm.
"Hi, I saw you at a seminar," and she's like, "Cool," and then gone.
Yeah.
So the big reveal at the end, you're like, "What? Holy!" Like,
I think
I
maybe she
forgot she even
popped up
existed.
like did she like pop up like one other time? I
I
think
think
like
so, like, partially in the background
yeah,
or
very background. Yeah.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden she is the end. She's like bam. It's
damn.
it's that's a double whammy that you don't see coming
No,
after
because
the original double whammy. It's like how they do that again, totally catch you off guard.
yeah, and because they do it with, Mickey, and you're like, "Okay," like, he was already kinda psycho, like you
Right.
said, and, like, he
Pop
was a
filter
film
film
buff,
geek. Yeah, yeah.
and it's just he was, like, the fun killer, and you're like, "Oh, cool, they're just gonna do one killer. Okay, that's cool," and then she pops out and just mind blown, and then when she pops out, you're like, okay, so this woman is mad that Gail blew her off. Okay, cool. Like
Mhm.
that's the instant
Right.
thinking
Yeah.
because she has the gun to Gail's head. And then Sydney's like, Mrs. Loomis, and you're like, what? Oh my god, it's just so good.
Yep. And
Uh,
like you said with Mickey, it's like Mickey feels like he's, the Matthew Lillard of this film, right? Like
mm-hmm.
he's a little wacky, weird. What's up with this guy? Not as severe, but still. So yeah, like he makes sense. And then once the two are put together, and I love her explanation because you have that classic kind of I'm the villain and I'm going to tell you my
Yeah,
dastardly plan,
yeah.
like moment with her.
I've got the weapon, so you have to listen to me.
Yeah, I totally get to the platform now. And she was just like, he's his reasons are so much more 90s than mine. I'm just here for revenge, And it's just like
Yeah.
I love it. It's that in the momentness of it to be like self-referential while it's happening. Be like, yeah, we get it. We know it. This is he wants fame and he wants, his 15 minutes and he's going to get it by being the killer.
Yeah.
And she's just all about you killed my son, and it's
Yep.
just like came back and like in the very last moments of the movie, which
Yep.
totally didn't see coming.
Oh
The
no, not at all.
By the way, spoilers. but these are
Oh,
sequels. Spoilers.
yeah,
Yeah.
big spoilers.
You should really watch the movie before we get to this point. But okay, wait. So but that also reminded me we did forget to mention somebody who does
Oh,
come back from the first film.
oh, we did.
Cotton
Oh,
Weary.
Cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, Cotton. Speaking of 15 minutes,
yeah.
that is his shtick in this movie. I just want my 15 minutes because he's like, I got gypped. In the first one he was Cotton Weary, not the villain, not the killer or anything, but like
He's
he
the
was the bad guy,
right
the other one,
in the
and
pre-story.
yeah, in the pre-story. So then he's like, I need my redemption arc. And so he's just like kind of stalking Sydney
Mm-hmm.
and being weird. So then again, with like the library scene when he's just following her, you're like, okay, so is he the killer now? Would they do that? And
That would have been a cool twist too, because you could almost see that, like, well, now he figures, how am I going to get famous? Well, I might as well do what
yeah,
they think I did, and get
for
famous.
sure. Yeah, like maybe that could have been a cool way to go because maybe he felt good being famous, in the
Hmm.
spotlight. So he's like, I'll just do it.
Yeah, and
That would
get
have been
the
cool.
get the huge court trial, and get my picture in
Yeah.
all the papers and all that. Yeah, definitely. So
And also he also wants that, but he also is like, I feel like talking to Sydney and trying to be like, hey, I didn't do what you think I did. And she's kind of like, well, I'm still scared of you, kind of like demeanor.
mhm.
And he's like, why? Why are you,
Right.
stop being scared of me? I didn't do anything. And she's like, well, I don't know, still feel weird about it because you did sleep with my mom still.
Yeah. So you have like all of this craziness going on in this arc of like they spend so much time making you every man is a red herring, kind of
Yep.
like the first film, and then B, like making you think Sydney's gone crazy because she can't
Yeah.
trust anybody anymore. And in the end, she's right. There was something going on. You know, it wasn't any of the people that we really suspected. We might have thought maybe with Mickey, but nobody
Yeah.
saw,
No.
Billy's mom coming out of this.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely like all of the things that it's this kind of like it's more like Agatha Christie-ish, than most even
Yeah.
horror movies. It's this whole like who done it kind of
Uh-huh.
scenarios that they set up so great in these films that it's not necessarily the horror trope, but it's a great system of keeping you kind of like on the edge of your seat, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Very whodunit.
Yes. Yeah.
I like
The any other cameos in this one? Rebecca Gerhart is in
that.
this
Yep.
for a moment.
I love her. Urban Legend is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I'm and I was like Jawbreaker. That's
Oh,
just like I love that
yes,
movie.
Jawbreaker is also one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yep. So
Um,
that's a
for a long time, I had in my bio the oh, I killed Liz, I killed a team dream, deal with it.
yep.
I had like that's like the funnest line of ever, and
Hmm.
that movie is just like everyone talks about Heathers and they love Heathers and it's like the film, that high school girl film, but I just Jawbreaker is it for me. Like
I
I
think
love that movie.
Heather's and I love Heather's too,
I
but
do
it's like
too. I do too.
and I think Heather's kind of took it to this place where you could go there,
Uh
and
huh.
then Jawbreaker just amps it up, and then
Yeah.
I would say even the amp up from there is Jennifer's Body. You
Oh
know,
yes.
like that's an
Uh,
awesome trilogy right there. That's like a
that would just be
we
a
should have that as a
trifecta.
movie fest. That would be amazing.
Absolutely.
We're gonna claim that, and we're gonna once we're gonna figure out some way to make this happen as a party because that
Yeah.
would be a great night.
Heather's walked so Jawbreaker could run so Jennifer's body could fly.
There you go.
That's that's what they
Awesome.
did. Girl
That's the
power.
T-shirt
Yeah, yeah.
coming soon to the internet
But
near you somehow. I don't know how, but
oh
we'll
yeah,
figure that out.
somewhere somehow.
Yes.
And then they
Who
have
else? Oh,
Portia de Rossi or whatever. She's Ellen's wife. She's
oh
just
yeah.
in this movie with Rebecca Gayheart, and like they are so good at being sorority. Like I hate to use the word bimbos, but that's like what they are. The '90s trope.
They're exactly what you expect, right?
Yeah,
Like the kind of like ditzy kind of just falling in line. This is what we're supposed to do. Party girls.
yeah. And they're like, Sydney, we're so glad you came. And she's like, no, I really mean that. I'm glad you came. It's like okay, like Sydney's like, I don't really get what I'm supposed to be doing here,
Yeah,
but
yeah. What is this? Is this a moment? I didn't know. Yeah.
yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't have death scenes. You know?
Yeah, I almost, you almost wonder, and I remember reading also that Rebecca Gerhart, I know, had auditioned to be in Scream, the
Oh.
first one, I think. So, but then I think Urban Legend happened, and then Scream 2.
Mm.
So this is like kind of this timeline of everybody being in those 90 movies right there.
Oh yeah.
But I almost wonder if the next film had been, because this one's a year after the first Scream, and if the next one had been a year later again, because there's a little bit of a time jump, right? If it was still
Oh,
like,
if they were still college era.
yeah, like I almost wonder
Yeah.
if they would have been the returning characters, like she would have joined the sorority and become friends with, kind of thing. That's
Oh, that yeah.
because I was wondering that too. I'm like, when I saw them, and now I'm recognizing who there are. Like I'm like, wow, that's it's that whole thing where all these people pop up that end up being like huge, and you're
Yeah.
like, were they going to be bigger characters, or was
Yeah,
this
well,
just to throw it out there?
yeah. And it's weird to me that they just popped up and they were in it a few times and then like Sarah Michelle Gellar, Cece, they had a whole death scene with her in the sorority, but not them. I just didn't understand. That's the only part I don't understand is like why didn't obviously I don't want to like why didn't they die?
Right? You don't want to kill
But
off everybody. Yeah.
yeah, but that just confused me a little bit. I'm like, okay, because I always went back before I watched these 2,000 times. I was like, don't remember their death scene. Like, why can't
Right.
I remember it? But it's because they didn't die. So
They
I'm like,
die.
oh, lucky.
I think that's also kind of how Jada Pinkett in the beginning is you didn't expect her to die because she was
Hmm.
really kind of up and comer right there.
Yeah.
And I think it was the Sarah Michelle Gellar again. It was she's the most famous, of the young actors. So you're not going to kill her off, right? Like, and then they're going to have the elaborate death for her because you're not
Yeah.
expecting. So you figure she's going to fight back, but no.
The
Um,
Wes Craven Scream series is the Game of Thrones
yes.
of like if you like a character, they're gonna die.
Yep, they're gonna die, or if not, they're gonna be a red herring, and they're gonna show up at the
Yeah.
end and not be the killer. And it,
Yes.
along those lines, though, we mentioned like the cast of Stab being kind
Hmm.
of plays off of them in the first one, talking about who would play them in the movie. So yeah, Tori Spelling was there, but also Billy in the movie Stab is Luke Wilson,
Yeah,
and
which he amps up his Luke Wilson acting to be Billy. He's
hair kind of
just
like falling in,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and he's like, "Well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles." He's like, "Oh, stupid." Like he's just like so Luke Wilson 2.0 as
Mhm.
Billy. It's just so good.
And Heather Graham is in there too. Is
Yeah.
Heather Graham is Drew Barrymore's character, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
She's
that's
the
another one that was just
yeah,
like,
she dies in the very beginning, but I love Heather Graham. She's good.
yeah, this is a good part too because it's like you would go with somebody big to play that character because it sets the whole movie in motion, right?
Hmm.
So that's cool. One last cameo I'm going to throw out there is David Warner. So the kind of creepy, like he only has maybe two scenes, maybe one line, but very creepy theater teacher
Yes.
is David Warner, who of course is like kind of always these kind of devil, evil characters.
Yeah, he's like
Um,
the just he's not scary looking, but they make him look like he's scary.
he's scary in that old British way,
Yes,
like.
yes.
But he's so of course from Tron, Time Bandits, classics.
Guys from
To
The
me at
Omen.
least, I don't know if anybody else. The Home. So I mean, he's horror and kind of genre, in general, kind of like horror sci-fi royalty in that. So throwing him in there is kind of like the Linda Blair I feel for this film.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
so that was really cool. And then we finally, guys, have gotten through the cast. There's so many people in this damn movie. Okay, and it gets bigger for the next one, so we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah.
Uh, my why this movie is important on Scream 2. I think it's like I said before, it's the same team. Like not only Wes Craven's back, not only the lead actors are back, Kevin Williamson wrote the script, but also behind the camera, a lot of the crew is the same.
Hmm.
And it feels so played right next into the same film because of that. And that's rare in sequels to kind of get to be able to do that. So that's cool. I love that about this. Um, the ability, and Wes Craven talks about this, the ability to follow the main character as her life progresses is
Hmm.
not common in horror. we see very few examples, but here we get to really see Sig grow up a little bit and become a, become her own person beyond the incidents of the first film. So that's also amazing. And then, of course, for me, the other thing is that this is the film that where Scream was kind of playing on the tropes of horror movies in general, we're playing on the tropes of sequels.
Yes.
And everything gets thrown out there. That is, the sequelitis, particularly in the 90s that we were seeing. So,
Yes. And they like we said, they mock themselves doing it. So the whole
yeah.
time they're doing it in your face, they're talking about it being in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And Randy uh, always is still talking about how, well, I mean, this is the horror movie that we're in, so this is what could happen, or this is who could be the killer. So it's just like they kind of guide you through the sequel,
Mm-hmm.
and then throw all that away, and then it's two different people.
Yeah. And all the things that we are supposed to do in a sequel, we're not going to do those. But,
Yeah,
here's this
which
instead.
is great.
Yeah. We could do like an RIP for Randy here, right? Like,
Yes, pour one out, light a candle.
yeah, man, like he was gonna be our guide through this journey, and
Yes.
he's gone.
He's
Didn't
the main person that I can't believe they killed. I
I
just
don't
can't believe it.
I don't think he could either. I think Jamie Kennedy's like, wait, I thought I was pretty secure here.
Yeah, I'm like the guy.
Yeah,
But I couldn't believe they killed him in that one, and that his death scene always makes me so sad. Like when he walks by that van, I'm like, keep going, you can live.
yeah.
But that's the saddest part of this whole series is Randy dying.
And I will say I do appreciate that everything going on with the TV van and everything, how it's so different from the scenario of the cameraman in the first film. So I
Yeah,
love that, where the Kenny character in the first film is kind of a little bumbling, kind of like behind her, like, I don't really care. This is just a gig, you know.
yeah.
What's the cameraman's name in this one? Is it
Joel.
Joel?
Yeah.
He's so much more like, you're
He's
kidding
like,
me.
hello? Yeah, why are we here? This
Yeah, you're
doesn't need to
crazy.
be broadcasted that badly. That's like
Yeah,
his like he's like I know my place in these types of situations, aka sequels. He's
right.
like I'm going to die. And so she's like, of course Gail weathers it and she's like, "Do this for me. Ah, I'm going to scream at you." And he does somehow, but
And in the end, he's just like he's done. He's like, nope,
yep,
nope, nope. Here's camera. See you later. Bye.
which is so I was so happy. I was like, good cuz he would have died.
That was a change that the actor suggested to Wes Craven. He's like, this doesn't feel genuine for me to stick around just to know that I'm going to die.
Oh.
And Wes Craven said to him, well, what are you going to do if you don't stick around? He's like, I'm going to get a cab home. And he's like, all right, let's try it. So
That's
that
cool.
that was a cool change that I definitely I was happy they did because it didn't play into the trope and it played against it. But yeah, he's totally like, didn't you hear Jada Pinkett's story in the beginning of this movie? Like,
Yeah.
why are we sticking around? It's a sequel. We got to get out of here. you know. So
Oof.
hats off.
Big hats off.
Anything else we want to say about Scream 2 before we move on?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think we're good here. We yeah, we gotta move on.